All right, good morning, everybody. Call the meeting to order at 9:04 and begin with adopting the agenda for December 8th, 2022. Council Loyal.
Motion that council adopts the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. And that brings us to our budget discussion. Mr. Gray.
Your worship members, last time we had left off was we're on water.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Council Clerk.
One quick question I got here on water and supplies, or sorry, the water. If you look at material and supplies, first page there, 2-500, we're up just $100,000. Is that just due to inflationary costs and stuff that we're bringing in, or? It says page 101, so not the
Oh,
first part.
101, okay.
It went from 148,000 to 230,000.
Materials and supply,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. I know that in our discussions, Mr. World and I, the water and sewer expenditures were under budgeted for, so he adjusted those to reflect actual costs being shown for that. We didn't have any major breaks this year, yeah.
We just replaced did a couple of repairs the
Just
last couple
minor.
days.
Yeah. So that's
But
the-
nothing,
That's the 100,000, the extra?
yeah, because they weren't budgeted appropriately in 2022.
Okay.
And that's, so, Mr. World, again, indicated that you have to budget accordingly to your expenditures, right?
Councilor Loyal.
Through the chair to admit, on the actuals in 2021, we had a negative value in our other local government line. Just wondering why 1 year was a negative value and then the next year's a positive value. The B line, same page, 2-300, other local government. I'm assuming it's a transfer payment. I just don't understand why it would have been a negative value payment. Refund?
101, right?
Oh,
Is-
no, it's expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, the 359,906 is
Yeah.
what you're, or 96. Are you on your computer? I'm at LAN reaching out to you. Are you on your computer checking with Bellamy to see what that number would be? The reason why? Okay. So we'll, once we got an answer, we'll.
We'll get Ryan up to the desk, eh? Make life easier for her, she's got the table. Yeah, I told you we needed new land. Okay, while she's looking for that, is there anything else?
Yeah, there's no notation in here from Mr. World either for that line item, so
Okay.
let's see. It's
Was that one of those payments that came in? Remember there was a series of water connections that were back and forth?
And I can't recall anything in that range for
Yeah,
that.
I thought that was like around the 120 or something.
Perhaps it was charged twice the year before, and I noticed it or something like that.
Yeah, well,
10 and 13, it just shows up the same way, right?
which page?
No,
10 of 13.
10 and 13.
But I think my.
Oh, so that's why it was reversed out.
Same numbers.
So you think it's solid waste?
Yeah, so I'm just not
The
sure.
wages that they're looking at there is the overall.
It's like pretty much a static number. I bet you
Yeah.
got charged
Okay.
twice the year
Yeah,
before. and
okay.
then-
Yeah.
Okay.
But that doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, no, so the reason, so your summary is utilities ops budget, summary is for, water, sewer, and landfill waste, right?
Oh, okay.
So those all three combined total that summary, right? Still hasn't answered the question, and we're looking for it. However, because that's consistent to other local government, my guess it's the town of Whitecourt's landfill number, but, because it's, other local government means any other local government, right? So it could be Mayor Thurbar had,
I don't think this needs to trip us up. Let's just move on, and if Lan can figure it out, then she can let us know when she
Okay.
figures it out.
okay, we'll do that.
Okay, is there anything further in the water and sewer then? That was the only item? I don't see any other items, so we can move on from there. Lan, we'll wait for you to find we'll just move on, but we can keep looking.
Just, I think I might have
So you'll know?
found it. I think I might have found it. If you look under the solid waste budget, it falls under that line, 359. So you go under solid waste, page number, not the first 101, but 104, you can see it as 2-300-351 in solid waste. So it must be a landfill item maybe.
Which page again?
When you go to the solid waste tab,
On the fourth.
yeah, 101 and 104 both have it on there.
Bet you it was charged twice. Some overpayment or something. Sewer too.
It's not in sewer.
Was that even a line item? So it's obviously from solid waste.
Solid waste.
Lay odds that that was an overpayment.
Anyways, we'll figure it out. I'm gonna highlight it.
We kind of jumped into the solid waste tab. Is there anything on that one? Other than that, same
Yeah,
question?
same thing.
Yeah, it's the same number.
Well, we'll let Lan keep chugging away there. I don't think there were any questions under solid waste. Do you want to move to SCSS? You okay to move to FCSS? Do you wanna give us a little overview on FCSS, cause I know there's kind of a change in our mentality around FCSS this time around, so.
Well, your worship, members of council, that's why we're doing the needs assessment. We haven't made that change because based on that needs assessment, whatever comes out of it, we'll approach council to say, do you want to shift focus on that? So,
Right. Anything here?
Same.
Consistent.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Okay, if there's nothing here, we'll move on to the one that was concerning Jeremy there.
Well, it was a joke, but actually, I do see something in there that's.
$215.
He wants to know why euthanasia is not on this.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, because there's 600.
Still think that's a really small amount of euthanasia. That'd probably only do one person,
Wonder if
right?
that got reversed there.
Was that dark? Was that too dark?
That's a dad.
I like it though.
Take this second to.
Okay.
Go ahead, Counselor.
We're on the cemetery, just one thing off the, I guess our main page that we have here, I'm just wondering, 'cause it shows a $60,000 reduction for West End bus for budgeting for cemeteries. Now, I know that we transport seniors on West End bus, but I didn't realize this is where we're transporting them to. So I'm just wondering where the $60,000 reduction, like, why it was budgeted in this line?
This is, which page is this?
Are we on cemetery?
This is on cemeteries on your, you're right there on the slide show. For the first line, it says $60,000 reduction for West End bus budget was too low. I'm just wondering why we have a West End bus budget on cemeteries. Like I said, I know we transport seniors, but
Yeah, it's not there.
that's a little dark.
Mr. World, this last little tidbit in there, is that what we're talking about?
Do you know why that was, Mr. Frank?
I would assume that we didn't catch that. Because I know seniors, West End busing is under 72.
FCSS.
No, that's under FCSS.
Is it? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was
Typo?
copy and paste that wasn't corrected. So the question then becomes decrease in maintenance on the cemeteries, and maybe, yeah, I would assume, I would just, let me go to. It says 60,230,
It's not on our actual.
Or page 1 of 1, they show budgeted under other local government 75,000 and 0 and 23, so that might be where that
Yeah.
difference is coming through.
Yeah. I'm just doing a quick calculation sometimes.
That was also, I believe,
The purchase of the.
no, the cemeteries with agreement that we had with Meritor. I believe, and it hadn't been, it was like a budget adjustment, it's just like basically a line up, because we didn't pay it for, because we didn't have an agreement with them, it wasn't paid, I think, from 1920? Yeah, so I think that was a big part of that, that was the big reduction from like 75, I think, the previous year to regular, I believe that is, I'm not, don't know, am I correct on that, Mr. Frank?
Are we talking about the 75,230? Yes. So the This year, in July of this year, council finally entered into, when I say finally, there was a commitment previously to enter into an agreement with the town of Marathon once the Lac Saint Anne and town of Marathon concluded their ICF agreement, and we entered into that agreement. And there was money put aside for that in the 2022 budget. Mr. World didn't pull it from there, so that $75,230 that was budgeted for in 2022, and we can't find any notes in our system that indicates that. But again, the payment for the town of Marathon came out of recreation, right?
Yes, it is come out with the rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just the coding,
Coding.
it's the
or-
coding end.
Yeah.
So when we budget in the cemetery, but when we pay the actual expense, it's come out with the park and rec. So we can
It
just
came out of the
reclass
which?
it.
Pardon me.
Oh, okay. All right. Council's good with that?
Okay, you can see it here, if you go to Parks and Rec, where we budget, we had this budget of $0 and, but an actual of 111,000. So something that was
Yeah.
off.
So it wasn't budget in park and rec, it was budget in cemetery.
Yeah, okay. Just a coding issue.
Yeah.
Okay. On to.
We got to next up.
Planning and development.
Planning and development.
When, we typically do a 4-year or 5-year review on the land use bylaws, is that correct?
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years? Is that in this budget or next budget, or when are we doing that? Because I know we keep running into a couple of things we want to clean up, so.
Your worship, it's in the 2022 budget. I have $40,000 allocated that's been carried forward, as well as the 40,000 contracted services that's currently in there. That'll be part of it. She's currently reviewing the municipal development plan. The land use bylaw will be done, as well as the intermunicipal development plan.
Quick question, just in the list under priorities and initiatives, number 5, there on the IDP, have we made any headway in that new IDP yet? Or is that still in the background?
The new intermunicipal development plan with the town of Whitecourt. That one, we are going to, in the new year, start having some discussions with the town of Whitecourt on the IDP. In talking with our consultant, there's some amendments that we would like to see made that'll be more a balanced approach to the IDP versus it being more one-sided where we refer to them and some referrals to us. That would be a little on their border, but we'd like to see the document a little more balanced as far as communication between the two.
Well, and once you get the, kind of the broad strokes of that AVPA, you may find it moves into that, IDP as well, so. Anything further under planning and development?
See.
Okay, I don't don't see anything further. We'll move on to agriculture.
We did that.
Oh, we did that one
yes,
already. We did that with, Ron the very first thing.
And your worship, if we can do community rec boards, park and rec and libraries, and then you can have the economic development officer, Mr. Rowe, come up after.
So you wanna do Parks and Rec next?
Yeah, that's Joan's area.
Okay.
Just program for me.
Oh, yeah, kind of,
It's
that's
a
right. The
combination.
maintenance part is under Rick's port. So if there's any questions on that too as well.
So we're on rec board first?
Yeah, I think we're doing that.
Yes, rec boards first.
I figured that out, looked at about 75,000. Golden Trail. Golden Trail.
So
No, there's no.
we have, 77,000 in amortization. So if we're not depreciating under asset management, what is that?
Tangible capital assets, so we, when we purchase something, we put it in the system as if it's a tangible capital asset, we have to do that. Yeah. So that's the amortization, and then there's a rate of depreciation on that.
That's part of that non-cash that you back out.
That's
budget
correct.
at the- Okay. Counselor Dean.
Through the chair to probably Heather, the budget year over year for grants and transfers, I'm assuming that's the grants that go to our community organizations?
No, that's not in 72. Did you want to talk about?
No, so what my question was, sorry, is there's been an increase in grants and transfers of about $75,000. I'm looking at rec boards, so,
Oh, you're in 71? Recreation boards?
yes,
I believe that is the capital grants for the community groups.
okay. And
Do you want a list of what they are?
just, it's a fairly significant increase, and is that just, that money was in the budget and maybe wasn't being spent before, or?
Well, capital budget, sorry, through the chair to Counselor. So every year, different community groups apply for different grants, so we never know what they're gonna budget in for that. So that's why there's usually a fluctuation. So we had more groups this year. We had 4 groups apply, and some of them were significant. So that's what that increase is in the rec boards.
Okay, people are doing more things now that COVID is over.
Yeah, and someone was doing kitchen renos. Blue Ridge Community League is residing the hall. That was like 15,000. The Fort Egg is doing the rec center. They're doing upgrades because the mums and tots are in there now, and they need to upgrade the bathroom and some other things. And the Fort Friendship Club needs to do, I don't know if you recall from our community services committee, they have a few roofs they need to fix, and they want to do these shingle shacks, but they want to do them with the wood. So we're kind of working with them to say, how can we reduce that? But that was 16,000.
Sure,
So
okay,
that was the increase of 75.
thank you.
Any further under Parks and Rec?
So we're going on to Parks and Rec? Is that what you said?
Your recreation board.
Sorry, we're in, anything further on the rec boards?
No.
Okay, we can move on to Parks and Rec. the, on page one of the, under grants, and under 2022, we had fairly, well, there was 82,000 budgeted for, actual was 88,000 in grants, then we dropped to 28. What's this significant change there under grants?
To Chair to Council. I asked about that this morning, and what I believe I was told was, I think that was some MSI funding that has been there showing up in the budget for the last couple of years that we didn't actually receive, so it was just not bad coding, but it shouldn't have been there because we hadn't been receiving that, so we've actually just removed that to reflect actually what we should get for grants this year. So we haven't received that in here the last year or two. It was, where did the money went to, somewhere else?
Admin.
It went into admin for different things there.
Mr. Fuka?
Through the chair to admin, your priorities initiatives show that you're reviewing revenue opportunities from lot rentals at Schumann Lake. Is that reflected in the budget item other revenue sources? Or we don't know that yet?
Not at this time. I think it's just something we'd like to discuss and see.
Okay.
They like to have like basically a campground that you would pay for overnight camping.
Okay.
Is what they're discussing, so it's just a thought at this point. Otherwise, we just stuck to our 1% and kind of cutting and mowing grass next year again.
Okay, thank you. Wasn't there 70,000 allocated to, in the capital side, right, to the hard luck game? Was that taken out?
Oh, the stairs. I think the stairs.
It is in the capital.
In the capital.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilor.
You might have covered this already, but through to administration. So I'm looking at page 1 of 1. And line 2-600, amortization, there's a 3-year average, there's an actual in 2021, but in 2022, there was neither a budget or an actual, and now it shows up again as an expense. Not sure why that's.
There's nothing showing it.
Yeah, for whatever reason in 2022, that there should have been amortization.
Sure.
Oh, you have it?
To the Chair of Council, so in 2022 budget, we didn't code the amortization correctly to the department, so this year we try to correct it.
Sure.
And put it into the proper department, so we will see some number that kind of look off, because we're trying to fix in the coding.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Is there anything further? Me.
Your worship, members of council, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but the curling club, we did do some investigation in regards to that. And Corinne can fill council in on what she researched.
So through the chair to all of council, following the motion council made to gather further information, including the financial status and corporate sponsorship opportunities, I did have the opportunity to connect with the treasurer of the club, who indicated that through their registrations for league this year, they did capture statistics on their residency. They had 113 registered members for league this year, 38 being 34% are Woodlands County residents. It was also indicated that, quote, when adding school programs and private functions, 50% seemed to be a reasonable assessment for the funding request. Regarding their financial status, their funding request remains the same. They're currently following the budget outline that was presented to this council in May. To date, they are not meeting their membership target or advertising being signage targets. They did indicate that it's too soon to tell whether other budget items will hit target, being their bar revenue, rentals, their expenses, etc. They are continuing to follow financial effectiveness, using volunteer bartenders and such was one of the items that they indicated. Related to corporate sponsorships, they did say that sponsorship opportunities are available for every funding level. They wanted to mention that they're currently in negotiations with a potential sponsor for the building exterior, being front and back, so it sounds like it could be a significant sponsorship opportunity. They did want to indicate that the town has been supporting the club as best they can during this process. However, they did note that there is no signed commitment between the club and the town. And that is what they have provided for an update at this time.
Thank you. Councilor Wilhelm.
Chair Woodman, did they give an indication of what the corporate sponsorship levels are and what the costs are?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, the treasurer didn't have specific numbers. She's not the board member who handles sponsorships. She did indicate that they did make opportunities available at every dollar level, and that's all she could really provide at that time.
Councilor Cush.
Like, I know that their ask was a one-off, I mean, saying that we should be funding half of it because the town funds half of it, so I'm, you know, we have sponsorships with other groups in the town of Whitecourt also under the corporate level, and I have nothing against funding them, if, you know, for the ask, they're asking if they wanna, if council would be agreeable to something like that, I would be okay with that under a corporate sponsorship, which puts our name or something at the end of a lane or whatever for the, you know, some type of, you know, notoriety is to, you know, we're here and we're, you know, what, you know, I guess we're part of the community too, not just handing money behind it, so.
Councilor Wilhelm.
What if we looked at a split opportunity there where we're providing a one-time grant for a portion of what they require, and then the additional funds are corporate sponsorship to make up the difference on what their ask is? You know what I mean?
Sorry for clarification. How do you mean?
Well, I meant if we were looking at our the catchment model split, which was like 22% or whatever, that would be funding them $9,800 or something like that if we were working on that type of model, and then the difference of that being about another $10,000 if we were looking to make up the difference with corporate sponsorship afterwards. You know what I mean? We're providing them a grant and then filling in the difference from the grant and main funds that they need as a corporate sponsorship.
I think I'll go with Councilor Colton and then Councilor Williams. Oh, it was Councilor Prestige, sorry.
Yeah, I think that approach would definitely be kind of in alignment with what we're doing with our other rec facilities, is that we do give some based on where they are. So we use the catchment would work for me, and then, you know, the corporate piece, you know, I think that's a really good putting a hand out saying we are responsible because we have people using that facility.
Councilor Prestige.
To the chair, I'm in favor of the catchment, but I think that's all we need to do. We have groups and rec areas within our own county that we've cut short because we didn't have the money. So I don't think we should do a corporate sponsorship. I think let's just do the catchment and that's it.
Councilor Dean.
Through the chair to admin and council, I guess, good discussion. Are we functionally able to make a motion though, or would this have to go to the next council meeting for a motion to direct admin?
Structurally, we can allocate, we can basically, the idea is that we would try and get admin to get an idea where the money's coming from or what's available. So we can make the monetary kind of decision and then it can be ratified at the council meeting. I think that would be the structural component of it.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, your worship, if council, you can do it a couple ways. You can direct administration to whatever the number you come up with to add it to the budget, and we would reduce our amount to reserves instead of trying to find whatever that amount is in the budget. We would just move that number and we'd indicate that. And then when you pass the budget, that would be in your final budget document for council's consideration.
Okay. Councilor Rohan?
Can I ask admin then to have a discussion with them with regards to, we can bring this to council for a final decision, but I'd like to see if we were to give them a grant and then with the remaining money from the grant to what their ask is being a corporate sponsorship, what that corporate sponsorship would entail from the club. And then that'll give us more information to make an actual decision off of it.
Your worship, members of council, yes, we can absolutely do that. It would take some time to do it. I know, for example, and the other corporate sponsor we have with Eastlink Park is a $25,000 contribution for 5 years, and we have the naming rights for the tube slide. So something similar would be arranged for that, and whether it's the end boards or whether it's the something associated with the curling club.
So just to put a number to it, and the way that the council's kind of been noodling the discussion around, I think we're looking around that 9,500 mark. That'd be correct? So
Yeah.
if we're tasking admin, we're looking at around that 9,500. Are you gonna be able to find that in this budget, or is this, what do we have to drop out of it?
We would just lower the amount going into reserves, right, by that amount.
Yeah.
So we're estimating, and I'm trying to find it, is, I believe it's 1,078,000, so it'd be 9,500 less of that.
And then, so the money that is going into reserves, is that on, like, the 1,078,000, was that the budgeted amount that we were planning on putting in reserves this year?
Yeah, 1,087,473, and it's on the, if you go back to the very beginning, expenses change from 2022 budget to 2023.
Is that in keeping with the recovery plan? What were the contributions to reserves supposed to be?
It fluctuates, but it was estimated to be $1 million. Like, that's what we've said in our recovery.
We're still roughly on budget.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Dean?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Question to admin on kind of the relationship, how the curling club fits into the overall recreation budget that's administered by the town of Whitecourt that we pay for. This is my understanding that, all of those facilities, there's a net cost and we contribute to the net cost. So my assumption is that we are contributing to the net cost associated with the curling rink, not the club, but the rink.
To the cost of, so if the town, for example, and again, I don't know the exact, I don't know if they pay for the power or whatever, however it is, but well, let's just assume that $20,780 was a grant that they gave to the curling club for that. Under the arbitration award right now, we pick up a portion of that based on population. distribution, so. And we're estimating right now at 18%, but that hasn't been confirmed, right?
I don't know if that quite answers the question. So who owns the building, I think, is part of it.
I believe the town.
I think so.
Right, and
Yeah.
I think this is more where you're going on the facility side and.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of the club and the operations, and then there's the facility side. So on the facility side, is that captured in the framework with the,
I was never there.
Through the chair to council, their presentation from May included some notations, one of which says, currently the club has an operating agreement in which the town only provides maintenance to the building envelope. The curling club is responsible for all other costs associated with the building and program.
So just to, that answers my question. So, I know when they did a renovation to the exterior of the building, the town looked after that, and then by extension, we contributed to that cost. But if the ice plant was to go down, the club would be responsible for that. So I just think it's important for us to understand, what we're contributing to. It's the volunteers and the people that are providing a service to the residents of the area.
and this was really kind of the crux, I guess, of some of that structure of the cost sharing between the town and the county. So, the money would flow from the county to the town and then into the facilities. And the contribution from Woodlands was kind of lost because that visibility wasn't there. It wasn't, and that's where the corporate sponsorship model came out of, and trying to get a little bit more, visibility in the community that way, that's all.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that under the previous cost-sharing agreement, the White Court Curling Club wasn't part of the contribution, right? And when we went to arbitration, the town asked that be considered, and the arbitrator awarded it. So it is a new cost associated with that building.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that, right? Because the curling club used to operate as its own entity, just like the White Court Golf and Country Club has always operated as its own entity. Now it's under our umbrella, effectively, and if you recall, before they did the upgrade to the exterior of the building, the Scott Safety Center and the Allen G. Miller Center had very similar coloring and design, etc. The curling club didn't. Now the curling club matches. So the Allen G. Miller Center has our logo on it. I'm not sure why the town of Whitecourt hasn't put their logo on the curling club, but for consistency, you could have both municipalities represented on all three of those buildings. And that way, not only do the patrons that curl see it, but everybody that drives by there is going to see that. So if we're going to consider, in addition to helping them out with their operating loss right now, if we're going to consider some type of corporate sponsorship, in my opinion, that's where I'd want it, is out on the facade so everybody can see it.
Councilor Williams?
I think we're kind of just all saying the same thing. I think we want to do it. Exactly how that looks, I think we should leave that up to administration to see how that would look and go forward. We're kind of in the circles now, I think.
So is the number of that 10,000 about right, or?
I think for the corporate sponsorship, it sounds great, good to me.
Okay, when we, just so that I get this right, you're saying that you want to split the 20,000 into 10 as a cost share and 10 as a corporate sponsorship, is that right?
Ish, yeah, like, I was using the catchment model of the 22% for I think it was 9.7, right? So if we go up to 10,000, that's more than what our cost share would be. I was thinking, the 9.8 or whatever that dollar value figures, I'd have to calculate it again, would be a cost share, and then the remaining portion of the ask would be our corporate sponsorship.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, and I think that this darn arbitration leaves us in a bit of a mess, but to stay consistent with our previous corporate sponsorship, it would all be corporate sponsorship, would it not? So if we decided to do the full 20, all 20 would be corporate sponsorship, or all, especially with the way that they're, I think that would just maintain continuity with what we have going with the ski hill. But let's figure out a number for right now, and then the mechanism can, at least admin has a number to deal with, and they can deal with the budget, and then we'll figure the mechanism out at a future council meeting. Councilor Dean?
So one thing I need to clarify is this corporate sponsorship one time, or is this something that we're gonna consider ongoing? If it's an ongoing thing, I would suggest that, you know, we follow Councillor Wilhelm's idea and we split their ask into two. And half of it is corporate sponsorship, and going forward, that's the amount that we would use. If this is a one-time corporate sponsorship, then 20,000 is fine.
Okay, we got lots of hands over here. I'll start with Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair, I think we have to be careful how we do this, because there's lots of other organizations that want money, like the Mountain Bike Park, and we denied them. So I think if we do it, it's a one-year thing. And they've worked well for many years on their own. And it would be a one-year sponsorship. And if they're doing fine on their own, why do we need to put money in? This is just to help them get over the hump.
Councillor Williams.
Gordon probably has the answer to it, but in their presentation, if I remember correctly, they didn't ask for it to go forward. They just asked for one time. So that's all I would plan for right now, because that's all their ask was. Sure.
So your worship, members of council, and you had the presentation part of your agenda. The ask was for $12,193 in 2022 and $8,587 in 2023, for a total of $20,780.
Right, it's a broke there.
Thank you.
Concept, right?
Yeah, so it is, like Councillor Williams said, is to get them back on their feet, I guess.
Okay, Councillor Kush.
It might sound like a Scrooge here, but I would be okay with, you know, we'll say like a $10,000 as a corporate sponsorship, and kind of leave it at that. We you know, it might sound tough, it might sound hard, it's still more than they would have had. It's an ask, it's something that we are, you know, can help out. I don't want to take away from where we're at, but we also, they say this because from a hard time going through COVID. Like I said, we had halls at our last meeting that they came in with their grant funding that we offer, and we told them through COVID, no, there was nothing, you know, where they qualified for. We went back, talked to council, we gave them a one-time whatever to get going and a new policy to keep going, but they still have to operate within those, and their numbers are cut too, and they're funded, and that's across all of our community leagues. So I giving them, you know, up to $20,000 because they had a hardship in COVID. I'm not saying it's not a good group, it's not a good facility, but the reality, that's 4 times what we offered our halls, and they do a lot for our community too. So 10,000 is kind of my number. It's more than you know, yes, COVID was hard. Lots of people made it through it. They had other government grants and stuff that they could have applied to and whatnot to the federal government, the provincial government to help offset stuff. Don't think they did that. It doesn't sound like it anyways. Or if they did, they never made it in there. 10,000, like I said, it's still more than they currently have. It should help. It's about what they're asking for this year, but I don't feel comfortable with the full 20.
Councillor Wilhelm.
What if we split it between the 2022 and 2023 budget? Right. So then, if they don't need it after this year, then corporate sponsorship's done in 2024, but we give them it for 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, and then we're not going over the $10,000. It gets them to a position where they can continue operating, and if they don't want to continue on a corporate sponsorship after that, that's their decision. And then we're not impacting our 2022 reserve contribution as much and splitting the rest into 2023.
Councillor Dean?
Just a question back to Councillor Wilhelmit. I'm not quite following you when, so I understand the 10 in this budget that would come out of the accumulated surplus that's supposed to be going into reserve, and 10 next year, but then you said something about a sponsorship opportunity. If they didn't want it, it would stop in 2024. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is if we were going to, I'm trying to be creative here with their ask. So if we would be essentially having sponsors that, excuse me, sponsoring them the 2022-23 season because there is a winter season and it goes over New Year's.
Yeah.
That would be the $10,000 from the 2022 budget. And then the remaining $10,000 would be for 2023-2024. So it would give us a corporate sponsorship. Yeah, unless they came and asked us if we wanted to continue for the next season, 2024, 2025.
Okay.
So that's, I think, a creative way to do it. I'm not saying we have to do it that way. I'm just trying to massage the situation.
Councillor Prestige?
I think I have to agree with Dave. 10,000, that's it. We have our own communities that we have to look after. And they're all hurting too.
That's fair, but we do give the other communities typically what they ask.
Councillor Dean?
We do give the other communities operating grants as well. You know, so they're just to clarify that, right? It's not like we're only giving our community groups $5,000.
No.
But our community groups have to qualify based off a bunch of criteria off that grant, and they're not guaranteed. It might be $1,000 or $500, depending what they put into it that year or into their haul and their service, and it could be up to a few $1,000s, but
yeah,
it floats depending on what they have to go also.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's gonna be a larger conversation to be had, because this figures into the cautionary agreements, it figures into an awful lot. And I part of the problem that I don't wanna get weighed down in, especially in light of a recent decision that came out, is setting precedents on some of these third-party things. So, and I think the two municipalities are kind of free to, or at least this was my understanding, is there are things that the town would contribute to that are not contributed to by Woodlands, and there are things that Woodlands contributes to that are not contributed to by the town. So we're gonna have to figure that out. I think a one-time corporate sponsorship and we'll allow the number at somewhere around $10,000. That's the rough framework of what we're looking at. This is not a go-forward number annually or anything by any means. We'll be very clear about that, and that's in keeping with the ask. It was a hard times type of thing, and I think I have to give the curling club credit in the fact that they've been operating at they've been generating a lot of revenue and looking after the building and a lot of heavy costs on their own. So they're, these are organizations that we want to keep afloat. But for our budget purposes today, I think let's put a number down at 10,000, and we'll bring it to a future meeting to figure out that mechanism exactly. But it's going to be on the corporate sponsorship line. Is that a fair path forward out of this?
That's fair.
Councillor Prestige?
Through the chair. If I remember right, we told the group that we didn't have anything budgeted for 2022, that we would look at it for 2023. So if we give them 10,000, it comes out of the 2023 budget, not out of our 2022 budget, because it was not budgeted.
Counselor Cush.
Just to that, by the time we get this to the next meeting, it's gonna be the 21st, and then this will be to the end of the year, so it'll be the 23rd budget year.
Okay. So 10 grand, 23rd budget, corporate sponsorship model, one time only. You're looking over there.
No, your worship, and then again, just see, either you can do it one of two ways, a straw vote, so that we know that everybody's on side, or the majority is on side.
Yeah.
Or you can have a motion that says, please allocate 10,000 to the White Court Curling Club for the 2023 budget.
Okay, well, I'll let everybody have a say. I'll start with Counselor Williams.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You agree with
The 2023, 10,000.
2023, 10,000 corporate sponsorship model, bring it to the next, to the future meeting. Okay, Counselor Prestage?
Yeah.
Counselor Cush? I would agree with that. Counselor Wilkin?
Yes.
Counselor,
Yeah, I agree with it. I just want to ask if they want corporate sponsorship again for next year, would they apply for that type of situation? Or how we want that to work?
unknown at this point. I
They
don't.
only asked for one.
Yeah.
That's fair, but I just want to know, because maybe they're watching, right? So what's the avenue forward?
Yeah, and this is part of the problem, you know, when we talked about, you know, ripping up pool mix and lowering, and we've lowered service levels in our own municipality. We still have to recover some of the service levels in our own municipality, and I know we're only talking about an extra, you know, 10 or 20,000, but it adds up as you go, so. There's gonna have to be some creative, well, not creative, but some really substantial decisions around sustainability going forward. And again, this cost sharing thing that we're involved in, it's gonna make it, it's muddied the waters for us. So at this point, I wanna deal with 1 year at a time, and
That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, 10,000 for me, it fits right around what we would assume would be a catchment value anyways, right? It's more than fair in that manner, so.
Counselor Dean?
I'm good.
Good? Okay, so,
Yeah, your worship, members of council, just so that we do have a corporate sponsorship policy that they could approach us and we would look at it.
okay. So, do you want a motion on this, or are you good with what?
No, I'm fine, we'll adjust the budget, we'll put $10,000 in the budget for the White Court Curling Club. We'll remove the surplus of, so it'll be $1,077,473. So adjust that.
John?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Councilor
I
Dean.
just want to come back to my original question about the mechanics of making the motion. So at this meeting, this group, the council, can make motions that give direction?
Yeah, your worship, members of council, if there is a debate where the individuals aren't in full agreement in regards to that, and i.e. you got a 4-3 split or a 5-2 or whatever, where you want to it be known that you're doing that, you could do it that way. But I get the sense that you guys tend to work it out. At the end of the budget presentation, there will be a motion to ask that you amend the proposed budget, right? And then on December 21st, you'll review it again for final approval. But there are times when you do want individual motions because you're not always on the same page, right?
Okay, thank you.
Just a question along that line as well. What area of the budget is the STARS contribution coming out of?
It is under emergency services, I believe it's emergency services itself, general, right?
Yeah.
It is. What's that?
I think it's council contract.
Is it council?
Yeah.
Or is it emergency services? I believe it's there, because I remember Andrew and I talked.
I know that we signed a commitment with them, and that commitment ends in 2023, is that right? 2023 is the
I think
last
we
year.
renewed it, did we not? Till 2025. At $3.
Oh, no. I don't remember that coming before.
Oh, okay, well then,
I think, well, we had a presentation from Stars and we said
In-
we'd talk about it at the budget.
in the fort. That's the last time Glenda was here, right?
No,
She was here.
She was here.
She was here.
This spring?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we up the agreement, so whatever
Yeah,
it
I just
expires.
wanna know when that agreement, I thought 2023 was the last year of the agreement.
Okay, let me look, ledge services. I don't remember these ledge, but.
The Stars is a good example, that we allow Stars, but we don't, the town does not. So, we maintain an airport that we land at, and at the moment, we're charging them landing fees, the helicopter landing fees, and we give money in corporate sponsorship. So I've always thought, you know, that there's other ways that you can support Stars that don't necessarily have to come out of ratepayers' pockets. And part of my issue with the Stars model is, if you can encourage individuals to do that $100, $200, you know, something along those lines, they get a tax credit for it. We collect tax money and we hand it to some of these other organizations, we get no tax credit, there's no benefit to us. It's a, I'm trying to figure out a way to be supportive of the organizations, but do it in a framework where it benefits everybody. Because it really, the mechanism of, you know, collecting a tax dollar from somebody and you know, pooling it together and handing it to another organization that's all, especially if they're already at that level of charitable organization within the tax rate, we're way better off to encourage to find a way to encourage the corporate sponsorship models and let them do it themselves. Kind of like community lunch box, things like that, right? So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's 15,
That's
Yeah.
the annual.
yeah, so where's it coming out of, which code? To,
20.
it is
And if
20.
you look at a lot of the things, the calculations, the way that our major municipalities has calculations, they'll do a lot of in-kind type stuff. So you'll run into a program, for example, that's hosted out at the Miller Center. Well, the Miller Center, there was a one-third debenture, and there's been cost share
Fire
on
jet.
that for, since it was built. So how can you do an in-kind to the one municipality without you asking for cash out of the other when you've already gotten your cost recovery out of that other municipality? It's an imbalance in the way that you're doing business with each other. These are kind of the structural or fundamental kind of conversations that we haven't really had yet. Councilor Dean?
Thanks. Are we waiting to find the Stars? Can we move on while they look at that?
Yeah, we can move on. Just gotta find my glasses. You wanna move on to library, Mr. Ray?
Yeah, your worship, just to answer your question, it is under fire, under grants to organizations for 15,754.
15,474?
Yeah.
And it's under fire, you said?
Fire.
Do we know when that agreement expires? Probably not, eh? Okay, we'll let that bubble away. In the meantime,
Libraries.
We'll move on to libraries. Christich.
Through the chair to administration, the Fort Cinnamon Library, it's in the school. Do we pay, or does the library pay rent to the school, or how does that work?
They have a deal with the school.
Yeah.
We provide the library services, they provide the space and the maintenance.
Oh,
Work back and forth.
Yeah.
Does that still have to do with the floor space, like the attendance floor space equation?
Yeah, like Dave said, we provide the library service, they get to use it,
Yeah.
they provide the space.
Yeah, and then we provide
Yeah.
all the services. to the
Yeah.
school, so.
Yeah.
John?
So your worship, members of council, we do have an agreement with Pembina Hills for that space, and we paid 30,000, 23.
That was for the mums and tots.
What do we pay? Oh, nothing now?
Because we provide the library services
Yeah,
to the
it's
school.
just an agreement.
Oh, okay. Okay,
It's a good deal.
and your, STARS does expire in 2024.
Okay. So 2024 is the last year, or 2024 is?
Yeah, you just renewed it this year. In that, I knew that, I thought it,
You never made a motion to renew anyway.
Must be an
presentation.
I think it'd be good
We'd
to
find
get
it,
an
yeah,
I just remember an update, I don't remember.
Yeah.
No.
a 3-year agreement.
That would have been the previous. Right before, right
Yeah, I
before we
think-
went in.
Let's find some minutes for that one, 'cause I don't remember that one. All right, anything further in libraries, council
I just
question?
have one question, under, grants to organizations, 184 is what we give the libraries.
That's correct.
We show here though in 22, we budgeted 260, we spent 190, and then it's back budgeted for 184 and 23. Just wondering what the difference there was.
Yeah, so if you go up a line to other local government, that's where the town of Whitecourt's contribution is to the Whitecourt Library. So the two combined, and then the other one that should be there is the YRL. Where is the YRL? Because that should add up to the 264.
Oh, I was just looking at the line, it's at 2-700 grants and transfers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just,
So 184, 67, and that's 251, and I'm missing 9,000.
okay.
So that would be material and supply? No. Do you know where YRL is?
It should be there, because there's the three of them.
Yeah. And I know again, you provided that. Do you have YRL? I can't hear you. 26,500? And where is that budget?
Contracted services.
Under contract services? Okay, under that 50,000? Okay.
Oh, yeah, there it is, there.
Page, yeah, one of three.
Yeah.
Yes. Urban Age.
Your worship, members of council, the STARS was through budget deliberations in 2022, or don't show that.
So it was re-upped in 2022?
It was redone in 2022 for 3-year commitment. So 2022, 23, 24.
This would be
Yeah.
Yeah, wire out, and you can see it in the last page there, it's contracted services.
There we go. All right. Anything further in library?
Yeah.
All right, where do we go from here on to requisitions or?
That is the last, and your worship, members of council, on requisitions are simply the parties, whether it be Laxey Dam Foundation or school requisition. Those numbers are put into the budget and we take it back out to the taxpayers to the appropriate assessment coding.
How come our actual, sorry, through the chair to admin, how come our actuals not quite at our budgeted? Wouldn't we have had all our recs come in by now, or given up, sorry, paid up? We haven't? Oh, it's
December 31st.
Quarterly to specific, okay.
School requisitions are quarterly. Laxey Dam is annually, right? Yeah, I think Laxey, yeah.
And the school requisitions, we kind of guess on for the year, don't we? We don't know what the
No, we
school
get a number.
requisitions
Your worship, members of council, no, we get a number from the school education, and then we adjust the
Yeah.
mill rate accordingly, tax rate accordingly.
Oh, council.
Yeah, through the chair to admin, where does that Barhead District Social Housing requisition show up?
That would be part of the total requisition.
Okay.
Okay, does that get you through your staff right now, and we just kind of leave, ECDF?
ECDEV is the only one left.
Oh, we're expecting to go the next 2 hours.
Not if you let it talk.
I'm just wondering.
We'll go through it.
Do we want a quick break? Now that we've got most released.
Or you finished with ECDEV and we're done.
Is ECDF the last tab?
That's the last one.
Okay,
You're
then let's push through it.
Go to the bathroom a little bit.
Hi, Bert.
Good morning, council and administrators.
This ECDF budget sure looks different from the first time I saw it. Councilor Prestige?
Through the chair to council and administration. ECDEV is such an important part of what we do. And it's too bad we have a restraint to the 1% because this is so under budgeted.
Councilor Dean?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to follow on that comment. Here's an example for council members that don't sit on ECDEF. We have members at large that the budget does not allow them to go to any conferences. And so those folks attend meetings and would love to attend these conferences and you know, bring their insight back. But that's just an example of how this budget is perhaps underfunded. I do want to say that you know, the analogy that I use, we got an analogy man here from the RMA, well, I'm gonna be an analogy man. I've always compared ECDEV to advertising, and it's really difficult to measure the positive effect of advertising, but you know if you don't do it, you're missing out. And so we, you know, from our revenue line, we've got zero, and it's gonna be zero all the way across, and it's always gonna be that way. So it's initiatives, you know, what do we bring to the table? How do we stimulate the business environment? You know, Bert's doing a good job. He's brought a number of the prospective projects in the area forward, and we hope that all of them take root. But I also believe that our committee needs to provide a little more direction to our admin, and to that end, we're gonna have a strategic planning session early in the new year. And I'm hoping, coming out of that strat plan session, we're gonna have some initiatives. We can attach budget numbers, and it'll be easier for council to understand when the ask comes back. It's difficult to ask for more right now, other than, you know, maybe to allow some members at large to go to conferences. It's difficult to have an ask when you don't have a plan. And so hopefully that will provide a plan.
Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things that I've probably spent most of my free time, which there's very little of, on, and the understanding that you get from how important economic development is starts to become a little bit more apparent after you immerse yourself a little bit in it. And I really have to give Councillor Prestige and Bert a big thank you for helping me try to understand the big picture a little bit better. But one of the things that is really interesting is when we're having this conversation about economic development is that every piece of our municipality, our infrastructure, has to do with economic development. Our water and sewer, our parks and recreation, everything is linked. And when you look at, I've had really good opportunity to talk with other municipalities through RMA about economic development, and you can see the ones that don't have that professional piece attached to their council really struggle, because they don't understand the importance of asset management. They don't understand that you can't measure economic development in a revenue expense stream. And when I look at what we are faced with in the next 10 years in trying to get our financial or our fiscal picture in a place where we want it to be, economic development is going to be a big piece of that, because unless we bring some bigger investment in, we're not going to be able to meet the goals under the current tax base that we're working on. And the second part of it is that we really have to work on the social economic piece, which I'm really proud of this council for understanding that partnerships within our communities are so important, and allocating that bicentennial funding. So when we look at this, what we're doing here with what we're budgeting this year, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff done, because we're going to align the strategic plan that Economic Development Committee has with the county strategic plan. And I don't think that's ever happened. So moving forward, I think, you know, next year we better entertain the idea of putting a little bit more dollars in that direction if we possibly can.
Councillor Dean, then Councillor Wilhelm.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just again, to follow up on that, I really think it's important, though, that we afford our members at large the opportunity to go to a conference. You know, Community Services has money in the budget for 2 members to attend. The Ag Service Board has money in the budget for members to attend, and I think we're missing out by not utilizing those talents. So, how many members at large do we have?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, we do have 4. And what's exciting this year is with our 2 new council members, we have someone from healthcare, we have someone with a background in engineering, and we have an entrepreneur. So, I mean.
So we have 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would like to attach a number that we think is reasonable from a cost perspective and allow all 4 of those to go to one conference. There's numerous they can go to, but it would, so I don't know if that number's 3,000 or 5,000 or 2,500 per, but multiply it by 4, and I'd like to add to this budget.
Councillor Wilhelm.
I was just going to comment on like all 3 councillors and the points they're making. I do agree ECDEV should look at an increase in funding sooner rather than later. And just to piggyback off of what Councillor Dean was saying, but I'd like to know what that additional funding is going to, because all the divisions in the county want more funding, right? And they can bring value in their own ways. So if you're going to develop a strategic plan with budget line items or numbers that are come out of that, I could see us for sure increasing the funding, but I don't know if we just increase it because we think it's going to bring value. I want to know how it's going to bring value.
Sorry, Councillor Cushing and Councillor Dean.
Just a quick question to the administration. Bert may know also with these economic development conferences, do you know what, say, average cost for a person to go to one of those is?
Yeah, so for example, for the EDA conference, the Economic Developers of Alberta, it's about $400 for registration and about $300 per night for hotel. So you would need probably, I would say, $1,500 plus travel, roughly $2,000 to $2,500 per person to attend.
Plus the ends.
Pardon?
Plus your honorariums?
Yes, correct.
Your worship, members of council, we use 3,000 as an average for conferences.
Okay. Councillor Dean.
So I just want to come back to Councillor Wilhelm's comment about the measurables. What I'm asking council to consider is, so now we have a number of 3,000, is adding $12,000. The measurable would be to allow the members at large to attend the conference and bring back some information that they can benefit our committee and our community. Again, that's it's a fuzzy answer, you know, that you can't put a metric on that, but I think we need to give our members at large that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we're slowly, I mean, we're seeing the economic recovery, the 5-year plan that we laid out in work. The completion of this 5-year plan is in 2024 last year.
Sorry, I
The
apologize.
5-year economic recovery plan, the completion year is 2024.
We're in year 4, 2023 is year 4.
So next year's budget is the last year of the economic recovery.
And if we hit our targets for 2023, we believe that we won't have to do 2024, but
Yeah.
unfortunately I can't.
Yes, that was that conversation that you and Mr. World were,
Yeah.
he was trying to be
Conservative
on it.
and I was optimistic.
Okay, so Councillor Cush?
I kind of, I guess, following what Councillor Dean said, I do see value in members at large attending some of these conferences. I've never been to an economic development one, but to the Ag Service and Alberta Care and everything else, there is definitely value to those. Just see if there's anywhere in the current budget that administration can possibly work in an extra 12,000 to be able to send. And if we can't send all 4, even an extra 6,000 to send 2 this year, maybe we can work that up the year after, but at least get some of the members of the building.
Yeah. Yeah, your worship, members of it, just checking the details of the economic budget. And Mr. Dean, Counselor Dean is correct that there's limited resources. You probably could take that 12,000 down to 10. We do have one for growing the north, and what was the other conference?
So in the past, we have sent a member to the Growing the North Conference, and in the distant past, prior to 2019, we did have a delegation under the old WWT model where we would send them to man and work the trade show booth at the Global Energy Show. We haven't had that in the budget since 2019 though, and so we did this year send one member to the EDA Ministry Dinner, which was just a one-night affair in Edmonton. So that was one night, one hotel, one day. So there is about $2,000 there, but certainly adding to that would give us more capacity to send more members and have our members broaden their reach and their knowledge.
You're kind of busy with CAO there, but is there, maybe we can't send everybody to a conference this year, but is there any way where we could possibly work another 6,000 into the budget to at least be able to send 2 members at large to something this year, and then maybe as budgets get better, we can up it?
I could go back and take.
The question was.
I'm sorry.
Your worship, members of council, yeah, again, we would, if council picks a number, all I would say, because the amount of money is minimal in regards to doing that, we would just take it from the surplus that we're anticipating. So you're now down to 1,078,000. You'd be down to 1,070,000 if it was $6,000, or 1,068,000 if you. So you have about $68,000 or $78,000 in that over your targeted financial recovery plan.
Mr. Dean?
I'm happy to see there's support for this idea, and I just want to speak to, whether it's half one year or half the next year, or sending all in 1 year. Our expectation, at least my expectation for a member of large or at large, is that they're going to come in and they're going to bring their own unique skill set to the table. And I think it's really important that we recognize the time and the effort that they put into this, right? Their honorariums are different than ours, but they're in that meeting for the same length of time that we are. They're contributing at the same level that we are, and they help us in budget decisions. And to me, it shows our commitment to our members at large to offer that opportunity to go to a conference. And I would ask council to consider putting enough money in the budget that they can all go.
Okay, so we want to add, say 10, you said was enough?
To have all 4 members attend one conference.
Okay.
Each.
We'll go around the room. You want to add 10 to the ACDEV for that purpose?
Yeah.
Councilor Williams?
Yes.
I'm good with it.
Good?
Yeah.
Councilor Colton? Yes. Councilor Wilhelm? Okay, there we are. So you have a number, and
We'll add it to the economic development budget and reduce the surplus, accumulated surplus, or whatever the transfer to.
all right, anything further on ACDEV? Congratulations on your, I can't remember the name of the conference that we hosted.
Sightlink.
The Sightlink conference, because I know I don't think that got nearly enough press, the fact that was the first one in Canada. And it got hosted right here in Woodlands to a whole bunch of, I think that cost us $5,000. And then you finagled a pile of sponsorship out of other municipalities. And then the Sightlink conference is scheduled for where?
Lac-Beaubiche County at the beginning of June.
Yeah, so fantastic job doing that. Councilor Coker.
Go ahead, Bruce, I think you're.
Through the chair to council and administration. I'd just like to congratulate Bert for winning the award for the Diamond Jubilee Award. Great job.
He was nominated. Congratulations. So your worship, members of council, if council doesn't have any other questions of the budget, a motion would be to amend the proposed 2023 budget and forward it to council's December 21st meeting for consideration.
Make that motion, the council direct administration to make amendments to the 2023 budget as discussed and bring back to the December 21st meeting for consideration.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? See none, I'll call a question, all in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So, motion to adjourn?
Make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilor Kush. All in favor?
Everybody's looking at me.
Adjourn.
Why don't we leave it?
You have a job.